Okay, so magic bean number 3 is your program. Again, your den meetings. Now, this is something that's really, really important. I can't stress this enough. If your den meetings right now are chaotic, and if you don't have a lot of parent involvement, I'm going to show you right now how to fix that really quickly. Okay, the single most important den meeting that you have is your very first one. Whether it's your first one as a tiger den when you're starting out, or if it's your first one this year or next year, or if you just want to make a quick course correction, right now, because your den just doesn't look and perform ideally, the way that you'd like it to. This is how you fix that. See, parents, especially at the tiger level and the lion level, when they're brand new, they have no idea what's expected of them. Okay, I mean, I would have parents, sometimes, come up to me and say, oh yeah, I'd like to be, a den mom or something like that. That's not a real position, but hey, you can call it whatever you want. If you want to bring snack or whatever every week, great. If you're willing to help, I'm willing to take any help that anybody's willing to give. So very first den meeting, I always start out with an activity that I can get the parents involved in. And I usually start out with doing something like, we would do like a broad jump. I would bring my tape measure, and I wouldn't even ask a parent. I just would walk right up to them and just hand them the end of the tape. And I didn't care if they were on their phone or not. It's like, and they would just put it down and they would just grab that end of the tape. People are not gonna, nobody's gonna be rude and just say no. You stick your hand out where you're holding out something, somebody's gonna take it. So I would just hold that out and I say, okay, you measure out 6 feet and put a tape mark here for me. And once they see me do that with the first person, all the other parents know, okay, I'm coming to somebody else next. I'm going to give them something else to do. But I'm not going to give them anything hard that they're going to possibly embarrass themselves with. It's just something simple. All right, can you take this tape measure and measure up on this wall 6 feet, mark it off at every foot, because we're going to try to see how high the scouts can jump, and so on and so on. And I just make sure that I'm getting them all involved and not letting them just sit in the back of the room on their phones. Okay. And I'm empowering them and getting them involved, saying, okay, you're going to count, and see how many push-ups, they can do. You're going to measure, how far they do a broad jump, and so on and so forth, until you get just about everybody involved, doing something. And then you make sure that the next week you followed up with another activity that they're going to be involved in, and you start giving people stuff to do. And before you know it, it becomes the expected behavior. Now, if you already have allowed people to be on their phones and sit in the back, and now you're wondering, okay, this is going to be really hard to change midstream. Yes, it's a little harder, but it's not impossible. It starts out just with communication. You have to have a little parents meeting at the beginning of your next meeting and share your vision for how you'd like the pack to operate. And you can say something like, hey, everyone, I would love you guys. I want to try to work on improving your pack and den experience. And the way that we can do that is I want to help you have fun at these den meetings, with your children, and bond, with your child. By helping me, we can accomplish that. And you tell them, it's like, look, it's just going to be little things. I'm just going to have you help, organize games at the beginning. If somebody wants to do a snack, we can take turns doing a snack. But little things like that get people involved. And by giving somebody a little bit more and more responsibility each week, that's how you develop leaders. I always say, look, my first ask is not, I don't ask somebody, directly to be a den leader. I just ask them for a little bit of help. I say, oh, can you bring a snack? Can you organize this game? Can you do this? And every week I give them a little bit more. And if they're doing a good job, I praise them. I say, boy, that was really great how you worked with the kids. Because people love knowing that they're doing well and that they're doing something good. So if you praise them and you compliment them, they can be more likely to take you up and help you the next time. Involve your parents in your den meetings. Let them be guest speakers. And this is where doing that parent talent survey is a really good idea, because you can see, okay, who's into geology, who's into sewing, who's into stamp collecting, whatever, and they can be your guest speaker. Kids love to see their parents, involved, and let the parents, talk about something that they know and they love, something that they know very well and don't feel like they're going to embarrass themselves. One of the things that we always did was, all of my den leaders, we have what we call our survival box. And for me, I had like this big tote, and in it, I had all kinds of little ordinary items, that you could make, that kids could make thousands of games out of. Solo cups, ping pong balls, yarn, and you name it, like little blocks of wood, string, just a variety of items. I would even have like, some puzzles in there. And I would use this so that at the beginning of our meeting, because not everybody shows up at the same time, right? We would have these gathering games, and I would let the kids take whatever they wanted out of this. And this way they can start playing and have some fun and set up a game, and until everybody arrives. And then once I'm done, having my parents meeting, before the meeting starts, and then we'll get going. Now, kids love routines. And if you have a den that's unruly, one of the best ways to get them under control is to make sure that you do everything in a set pattern, and that all the dens are doing the same meeting pattern. And I'm going to explain why that's important. Once they know what the expected behavior is and what comes next, it's much easier to get them to do what you want them to do. But if snack time is at a different part of the meeting every week, if the activity is at a different part of the meeting every week, if the game is at a different part of the meeting every week, they don't know what's next. But once they know what's next, they're looking forward to it. Okay. And if you have all of your dens following the same pattern, guess what? If the following year somebody else is the leader and you're not the leader, or they're going into another den, somebody else's den, they're following that same pattern they already learned with you. They don't have to learn that again. And you will find that you will spend less time with your signs up and more time actually working, with your scouts and doing, the activity and teaching, what the lesson for that week is. Now, another important thing is we would have regular den leader trainings. And one of the den leader trainings that we would do is we would have a den leader plan pretty much like a typical den meeting, but this would be for all of the leaders to participate in, and let them actually be the kids in that den meeting, so they can see what it's like to be somebody in your den meeting, so they can experience it firsthand. And I would purposely have one den leader kind of act up, so you could see how, the den leader reacts and how they, would discipline them. And this way, all the den leaders kind of can see the experience from the kids' point of view. And now you can better understand, if your meeting is fun, if it's boring, what needs to be changed, and so on. But this way, it gets everybody on the same page, everybody running their meetings the same way. Now, one of the things that we did in the beginning, I did not have a lot of parents helping. It was just myself and two of my assistant Cubmasters doing everything. And that just had to stop. We just couldn't continue. We were starting to grow, and it was just too much for just the three of us to carry all of the activities. So I got the idea, during one pack meeting, and Scouts love skits. So I decided, I'm going to create like a little skit to try to get some more parents involved. So what we did was I got a whole bunch of empty boxes, and in each box, I put a sheet of paper, and on that sheet of paper, I put the name of an event, like Pinewood Derby, Cubmobile Race, all the activities that we wanted to try to do, for that Scout year. And then I would put a slot of how many volunteers we needed to make each event happen. So while I'm up on stage running the pack meeting, I had my assistant Cubmaster come in carrying all these empty boxes. And I had him come in from the back of the auditorium, and he came in, and then he would stumble and all the boxes go flying. Now, when somebody drops something, what do people do? They pick it up. They help you. At least you would hope they will, right? And sure enough, I picked up the boxes for him. I'm like, Scott, what are you doing? You're interrupting, the pack meeting. What do you have in all those boxes? He's like, oh, this is all of our program. I'm carrying our program, here in my arms, and I just can't carry them all by myself. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, each one of these boxes has an event, and in each box, there's a sign-up sheet. And if we want to have these events, we have to have this amount of volunteers for each one. And you would hold up, the sheet inside and say, so for Pinewood Derby, we need 10 volunteers if we're going to have the Pinewood Derby. So then I said, okay, so why don't we do this, Scott? How about if you circulate those boxes around the room, and once that sheet gets filled, we'll put that box on the stage, and we're going to start building our program. So whatever ends up on the stage, that's our program for the year. So boxes kept going around, and throughout the pack meeting, I would check in on the boxes. I'd be like, okay, how's that Pinewood Derby looking? How many more volunteers do we need? And I'd be like, oh, we need 2 more. Like, well, if we don't get 2 more, we're not going to have the Pinewood Derby. And the kids would be like, oh, Dad, we got to have the Pinewood Derby. I love the Pinewood Derby. And and around it went. And it's tough love, but believe it or not, it worked. Everybody, we got just about every event, fully manned. Now, the key thing is, I didn't make any of the parents volunteer to be the chair. They just had to volunteer to help. Okay, because if you try to get somebody to chair it, most parents are not going to step up and do that. And that's where putting in the SOP that every den leader will agree to chair one event was one of the smartest things we ever did, because this is what would happen. So once my den leaders knew that everyone had to chair an event, we would have our gathering, our first, planning meeting, over the summer. Everybody knew that they had to come, and they would have to choose their event at that den meeting, at that leader meeting. People would show up early so they could get the event that they wanted. And once they did it the first time, it kind of like became their event. So we really only had to do it that first time, and then it became like their baby. It's, oh, yep, I got Pinewood Derby. Oh, I got Cubmobile Race. Yep, I've got the Carnival. Yep, I've got this one. And you just have to create that cycle to get them involved. So again, a little tough love, but it works. And if you don't ask for help, you're not going to get help. All right. So that worked really well for us. And hopefully that can work for you too. Keep the outing and scouting. Make sure, especially now, with COVID, that you have as many den meetings and even pack meetings outdoors. And you want to keep it fun. And you want to make sure that you have recognition. Now, I visit a lot of pack meetings, and most pack meetings that I visit, people have lost sight of what the purpose of the pack meeting is. They're standing up there going on and on, you know, about popcorn, about this event, about announcements and all that. That's not the purpose of the PAC meeting. The PAC meeting is for the kids. It's where you recognize the kids, where they get their awards, where they get to show what they've been working on. Sure, every now and then you have to make a quick announcement, but that should not be your pulpit to go on and on about, you know, the next thing that you have coming up. So what we started doing was, if we had something that we needed to share, you know, with our parents, you know, that we couldn't, you know, somehow put out on the email or on the website, we would bring whiteboards and we would set them up by each door. And then we would encourage the parents to take a picture of it, you know, on the way out. You know, everybody's got a smartphone these days. You know, you just put the info on it. And now the parents know, they check the whiteboard on the way in and the way out for any, you know, upcoming info that they might need. And this saves a lot of time in your PAC meeting. It keeps your PAC meeting fun. And one of the other things that we did was, not everybody would show up again, you know, to the PAC meetings on time. So in order to start getting people more in the habit of coming early and encouraging them to come early, I would run a slideshow at the beginning of the PAC meeting, like, you know, maybe starting like 10 minutes, you know, beforehand on a continuous loop. And this would show images of the last event. You know, so if we just had our PAC sleepover or the camp out or the Adventure Aquarium sleepover, this is where people would see those images. And people would now know to come early if they wanted to see some of the images. And it gives people something to do and look at and entertains them while they're waiting for the PAC meeting to begin. Now, also in our PAC meeting, we started encouraging each den to give a den report where they could talk about, you know, what they've been working on. And this had many functions. Number one, it promoted to the younger scouts what's next, like what they'll be doing, you know, as a Weeblo and as a wolf and all of that. Number two, it encourages them and teaches them public speaking. These kids would literally fight for the microphone to get a chance to talk. It just would get them more and more comfortable, you know, speaking in front of a large group. You know, so it was just a really big, you know, promotional thing. We would let the dens, you know, set up tables and display some of the things that they made. We would have all kinds of fun games, not just for the kids, but for the parents also. During usually for our first PAC meeting of the year, I would do a couple of icebreaker games. I would do something like, I would call it your winning hand. I would take I don't know if you've ever seen like those colored key identifiers where, you know, you just wrap it around, you know, the head of your house key. Well, those will also hold a quarter perfectly. So I would get a whole bunch of those, you know, different colors, and you stick a quarter in it, and I would start those spreading around the room, you know, in all different corners of the room. And the rules were, you had to, if you had it in your hand, you had to shake hands and meet somebody and introduce yourself. And then at the end, whoever had that quarter, you know, at the end that had it in their hand, now you had to give it, if you had it in your hand and somebody stuck their hand out, you had to pass it on. You couldn't hold on to it. You had to keep spreading it around. At the end, whoever still had it, you know, would earn a prize. And I would have, like, you know, some little simple prizes. You know, it could be like a $5 gift card, or it could be, you know, an inflatable beach ball or whatever. But it was just, you know, to break the ice, get people to meet each other and introduce themselves. And that always worked out really well. It was always a lot of fun for everybody. You know, very important to keep your local troop involved, you know, get them promoting and let the scouts get used to seeing them, you know, all the time. Okay, all right, so PAC events and ideas. All right, like I said, Pinewood Derby, great one. We also started doing what I call the Cubmasters Challenge. Now, I came up with this because we would work so hard on these Pinewood Derby cars, and after it's all over, what do you do with these cars? So I decided, hey, you know what? How about if we take our, top, 10 or 20 cars, and we challenge a neighboring pack, and then we have a trophy that we just would pass back and forth. So we started doing this, with one neighboring pack, and then it spread, and we started having it, with two other packs, and it just became a lot of fun. It was just it was bragging rights, and you get to keep the cup, for a year until somebody else won it. So for a little investment of $25 for a little cup, it was just lots of fun, and we just take turns hosting it, at somebody else's, facility, and we just had to make sure that we all agreed on, what rules we were going to build to and abide to, so that everybody's cars, were on the same playing field. But that was lots and lots of fun, for the scouts and the parents involved, and the winner the kids would get, a big giant trophy, as well. So lots of fun. Now for our, one thing that we did for our Pinewood Derby that made it a really big hit, our Pinewood Derby, it's just a great function. It's a giant spectacle. It's just fun for everybody. I'll give you some of the highlights of it. Rather than having, everybody trying to crowd around the finish line, we put a camera on the finish line and we project it, up so everybody could see. So doing that made it a lot more enjoyable for everybody. We created a sibling table where we would have games and activities for any siblings that came that may not have a car. This would keep them, engaged and involved during the race. We created a concession stand. We would sell popcorn, hot dogs, chili dogs, chips, pretzels, water. We would let the Girl Scouts come in and sell Girl Scout cookies. We had music playing in the background. We had a roving reporter going around with a wireless microphone, and they would like interview some of the scouts and ask them, how their race day was going and things like that, and it would be up on the big screen. We would make it fun for all of the scouts. What we would do is when you run a Pinewood Derby, they run the races in heats, meaning you run, if you have a 4-lane track, your car will run, 4 times, once in every lane. So that would mean that your car would run 4 times. So every time the kid's car ran, we would award ribbons for first, second, third, and fourth for that heat. So this way, every kid walks out with 4 ribbons. And, some kids will have 4 first place ribbons, some they might have 1 or 2 or 3, but this way everybody feels like they won and they got something. It just made it a lot more fun, for the kids, rather than, just the 3 that win the whole thing. So that was always a lot of fun, for the kids. We did the rain gutter regatta. That's always a lot of fun. There are inflatable ones that you can buy, so you don't have to, set up an actual rain gutter. The Cubmobile, again, that I talked about, that's a blast. What I did with these was I beefed up the plans for the Cubmobile. Like I said, the Cubmobile is pretty much like a giant Pinewood Derby car made out of 2x4s and plywood, and you steer with a rope. And I would get like these really great wheels you could buy online, wheels that are rated for over 400 pounds. They're normally for like wheelchairs and things like that. So these roll really great. They last a long time. And the reason I would do this was so this way the parents could also race, my adult leaders. And I would use that as an incentive to get parents to become volunteers. I'll tell them, if you want to drive that car, you have to, turn in an adult application. So this way you're covered by our insurance. Should you, have an accident in the Cubmobile. So that was always a blast. We'd do a beach party down at Island Beach State Park. We would go after the season ends, so we'd go after Labor Day. And this way the beach is empty. We wouldn't do any swimming. We just would do all kinds of events on Island Beach State Park. If you go south of the swim beaches, you can cook on the beach, you can make a campfire, and we just would do all kinds of games, sandcastle competitions, volleyball, soccer, and it's just a really, really fun, family, day. And again, everything I'm talking about, it's all about family, just helping the families make great memories and having fun and bonding with the children and giving them opportunities to get closer with their kids. Space Derby, we do the rockets, the family campouts, the overnight museum trips. Just about every museum, has the overnight trips. We do outdoor movies, in the park all the time. Hiking, bike rodeos, field days, service projects. Again, there's so many projects that you could do in your community, and this is the key to getting yourself ingratiated with your community, and this pays off and builds a positive image of the Scouts and lets people know that there's still a Cub pack in town. Many packs are invisible. They stay indoors. So that's why we always encourage to keep the outing and scouting, have as many den meetings outside in uniform and pack meetings outside so people can see you. Visit nursing homes. We would, visit the nursing homes, bring them cupcakes, around Valentine's Day, and around the holidays, we would go visit. Lots of great snow tubing around. Jack Frost has a Scout Sundays that they run. Blue Mountain has Scout Sundays also, and all of these are great fun. River tubing, you can go, down at the, over here in Pennsylvania on the Delaware, you can go river tubing, park and school cleanups, treasure hunts, lots of great, pack ideas there. Okay, so, retaining more Scouts, again, it's all linked to your program. If you run a great program, and again, if your parents see the value in Scouting, if they understand what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to teach the Scouts, teaching them the value of staying in Scouting until they're an Eagle Scout, that is going to help with your retention. But your retention is very, very linked to the quality of your program. If you have a great program, they will stay. If you don't have a great program, a disorganized program, they're going to leave. One of the things that we also did to make it a little easier for people to join, especially now with the rising costs of membership, we created a hardship fund. And basically what we would do is, from our fundraisers, we would hold back, like 5% or whatever, and we'd put that into a hardship fund. So this way, if somebody had trouble, affording, their membership dues, or uniform, we could help them. We would keep it anonymous. Now we would call it a hand up, not a handout. And by that, what we meant was, we would help somebody pay for the membership fee, but in exchange, we would expect them to be one of the first to volunteer to sell popcorn or sell our fundraisers. And our fundraising chair would give them an expected amount, of either, Wawa, sales hours that they should aim for to kind of equal the amount of money that we were going to front for them. Because we know that, when we do the time at Wawa, it averages out to about $100 per hour when we're out there selling. So you give people ways to help themselves out. But again, it's a hand up, not a handout. We created an experienced uniform bank. As you know, the kids grow very quickly, and those Scout pants aren't cheap. So we just would have people donate their used Scout pants, and then new families coming in, we would let them, go through, the experienced uniforms and select from those, and then you could go and just purchase the few items that they were missing. But that was a real saver, for many of our parents. Get the parents, more involved. Remember, keep making it fun for the parents. Include, some social events for the parents. Promote the benefits of the rank of Eagle. and solve the problems in your pack or your den with no drama just by using that SOP. I cannot stress that more. It is the single best way to completely turn your pack around and turn it into a family friendly environment and a thriving pack. Also, include in there a succession plan. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of packs make is that there isn't a time limit or a term limit for the Cubmaster. So the Cubmaster, like you, Jill, and Pete, and anybody else that's a Cubmaster, sometimes it's expected that you're it, till forever, and that's just a big ask. And when you're looking for somebody to replace you, if they look at you and everything that you're doing, and you're carrying all of these other activities, and there's no way you're going to get somebody to volunteer for that. There's like, nope, I'm not doing that. And, that's just too big of an ask. But if you write into your SOP that, the Cubmaster will be the Cubmaster for a year or for 2 years, and, then you can, flip flop, with the assistant Cubmaster. So you do it this year, I'll do it the following year, whatever. But you have a plan in place so people know what's expected of them, and it's not indefinite until perpetuity. So when you have that, you'll find people more likely to step up to do a job when they know what the job is, and it's specifically spelled out what the responsibilities are. So using that SOP, very, very, very important, and just getting those families and packs, get those families involved, and just having fun with their kids. Okay, now almost at the end. Now, hindsight is 2020. Like I said earlier, my son has earned his Eagle rank. He's now in college. I've had an amazing, amazing Scout career. I've earned several mentor pins. And if you don't know what a mentor pin is, it's a pin that an Eagle Scout, gives to someone that's made a difference in their life. And I can tell you that there's nothing more rewarding than getting a pin from a Scout that was with you from Tigers all the way to Eagle. And when they present that to you and they tell you that you changed their life, that because of you, they want to be a better man, they want to be a better person, you inspired them, you taught them things that they never thought they would ever get the opportunity to do. We went rock climbing together, whitewater rafting together, we've canoed over 50 miles, together. It's just the bonds that I've made with these boys is unbreakable. These are all my boys now. And Scouting is a very emotional and passionate program. And it's very common, for people to get heated and tempers to flare, when things aren't organized, because it's an emotional, program, and people get so emotionally invested. So if you have people in your pack who were Scouts and they have their own vision of what they think your pack should be like, and you have yours, if you're not working together, you're just going to drive each other crazy, and you're just going to rip apart. So you have to, try to get them to see your vision and share it with all of your leaders, so that everybody's pulling in the same direction. And that everybody realizes, what that end goal is, to leave behind a legacy, leave behind a stronger and better pack than what you found, when you got there. Like I said, our pack, we started out with 30. By the time I crossed over into the troop, we had 102 Scouts. And at our last blue and gold, when we crossed over, it was great. We had the next 3 Cubmasters lined up, already. And we knew that each of those, with those 3, we had the next 9 years covered. And that's still the case. Those guys the succession plan is working exactly the way that we planned it all those years ago. At my final Blue and Gold, we had over 300 people there in attendance, from our PAC parents and community leaders. And it was just a great, great celebration. And it was one of those things where at the very beginning, I said, think about what you want them to say about you when you're gone, when you move on. And I knew that I wanted people to say that I made a difference. And that phrase that I had come up with in my mind all those years ago when I first accepted the job of Cubmaster and what I decided I wanted people to say, people said that and more on my last day. And that is like the best satisfaction that you can get as a volunteer when people praise you for a job well done. So put some planning into it. Think about what your last day is going to be, what you want them to say on your last day, and work towards that. And I want you guys to seize the opportunity that's in front of you today. You have the opportunity to impact the lives of hundreds of youth. And you may not even know it. Just because you were in their life for a year, even if they don't continue scouting, but that contact that you make with each one of those scouts will pay off, for them and for you at some point. So know that you are part of something really, really big. And I'm dedicated to helping anybody that needs help, to grow and to improve their pack. So if you want to stay in contact, like I said, this is the beginning of a relationship. I'm here to coach you. If you find that you introduce your SOP and for some reason you can't explain it properly or get your committee or your leaders to buy in, and you would like me to zoom in and share with them the benefits of an SOP or some of my experience and to talk to them and to help you guys get it started, I am more than happy to do that. I want you guys to each think of me as your guy on the inside, your guy with the answers. As a commissioner, that is part of my job, to help you guys with any problems that you might have and to grow. And it's so important to have somebody that you feel that you can turn to when you have an important question, you don't know where to go. I'm fortunate to have my guy on this call. Chuck is my guy. He oversees, my area. And when I first signed on, as a council commissioner, he introduced himself and told me that he was my guy. And I've turned to him several times already for things and for questions and for advice. And he's shaking his head, but it gives comfort when you know that you have somebody that you can turn to, and it makes you feel better about, agreeing to take on a responsibility or a new position. So I'm here to be your guy. If you guys need anything, have any questions, just having problems, you're infighting, whatever's going on in your pack, contact me. I'm more than happy to help you sort it out. And that's my pledge to you guys. I will help you any way that I can. So if you need to get a hold of me, here's my contact info. You can text me. I'm self-employed, so I can usually respond to text pretty quickly, or email me. Okay, so I hope that I gave you some valuable information today.